Can you see this PDF right here? Cool. Thank you. Thank you. A lot of head nodding going. Good. So this is actually based off of No Reservations. And that is my French accent. Thank you very much. I got a little smile there from Elise. All right, so ready to go? Here we go. Let's talk about staging. And this is a great, I swear to God, I really want you guys to try this in your own time. Give yourself a story prompt. It could be anything. Think about it like a man chases a dog, or a guy gets on a bus and he doesn't have money for the till. And just think of a simple story prompt where there's a little bit of a conflict. Person opens refrigerator and a monster jumps out of the refrigerator. Give yourself a prompt, a very simple prompt with a conflict, and then stage it in the most generic proscenium staging ever to put down the main ideas. Don't worry about what the monster looks like. Just stage it in the most basic area and then figure out creatively where you put the camera afterwards. This is a great, great experiment and learning tool to understand in all the different places you can put the camera to make your staging more dynamic and more interesting. So we have wide proscenium shots are great for background information, how close or far the characters are from each other, their body language, overall visual clarity and storytelling, okay? So we have a character that's hunched over, pleading to Vicky. This conveys, and I call the female character Vicky in the story, it conveys an attitude of groveling and insecurity. This is more character body language. We have her arched back, leaning away. Body language conveys confidence and I don't care type of attitude. And we have a story point. Vicky is tired of the complaining, meaning he's like, I just need to take a shot. I don't understand this reservation thing. It's like blah, 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 blah. She's tired of it. So how can we more effectively see her expression? That's the story point. If she's tired of the complaining, how can we tell the story point better than this shot? And this shot is a good way to start, but it's not giving us all the information. So how about consider moving the camera closer to the action? So we'll put the camera over his shoulder, and this will also help guide the audience's eyes to look exactly where we want them to look. And another way to think about this is, how can we more clearly see how she's feeling? Does this type of staging allow for us to see how she's feeling in this wide proscenium shot? Does it allow us to see that? These are the questions we have to ask ourselves when we're boarding. Am I being as clear as I can in my visual staging so that I am conveying the emotions of our characters as best as they can be told and as best as they can be viewed by our audience? Am I doing the best I can? We want to see Vicky's expression as a reaction to Shadahar's complaining. So a possible solution is to move the camera to an over-the-shoulder shot. And now we're closer to the action and are experiencing the storytelling closer to our hero's point of view. And look, we're also more focused on where to look. He's in soft focus, so we're only seeing him from the back. Vicky is in focus, so we naturally look at her, even though Shadowheart is the one doing the speaking. Because again, what's the story point, everybody? We want to see her reaction to his whining about not being given an opportunity to take a clear shot at the king because he didn't know about what? He didn't know about the reservation system. And we need to see a reaction. So this is a better angle to tell that story point. We get to more clearly see how Vicky is feeling with the camera right here. So a shot like this can help a lot. And it's much more dynamic. And this is something we've talked about before. The difference between this shot here is that we are wide and we're neutral and we're not telling anybody's particular story. What we are getting great information from this is the background information. We're getting great information as to how near or far away they are from each other. We're getting great overall silhouetting body language and acting. And we can still see Vicky's attitude, but we're not telling one particular character's point of view. So to start off with this would be great. And then going into this for more specificity helps. It's also, this is 1-point perspective versus 3-point perspective. We have multiple vanishing points in a shot like this. This shot is visually more dynamic and interesting than the flat proscenium shot. Then we hear something off camera, and this might be the part where he says, I can clearly take a shot here. And she says, well, that's great, but what about the guys who made a reservation? And here's something off camera. In this staging, we can also bring the focus back to Shadowheart if we want to. And this is what I would talk about, or I would call part of the chess move. Remember, the chess move is thinking down our story road, looking down the story road and seeing, what's coming up around that corner that I need to set up and I need to reveal. And if the next story point is to reveal that there are a couple of guys that have been hiding in the forest and they made a reservation and now they've made themselves visible to claim the reservation spot, can I tell that next story point in this shot? And if I stage a shot like this, what I can do is get our guy looking here. And by turning his head to a profile, we bring the attention back to our main character. We can also rack focus to emphasize where we want the audience to look. And by pulling the focus off of Vicky and only on Shadow, we have no choice but to look at him. So now he hears something, and his eye directions also tells us he's reacting to something or someone off screen. This also sets up a question: what is he seeing? And so this also helps pay off the idea, and this is part of the chess move. This is a question that needs to be answered, and which also helps motivate the cut to reveal the answer. So boom, off the cut, we go to the answer, which is the reveal of Gothar and some other random assassin waiting in the forest. And we're in and over the shoulder. By Keep Shadowheart in the foreground, we get to experience the storytelling from his perspective and see how close Gothar is in relation to Shadowheart. This gives us another great spatial relation of knowing how near or far they are. And it connects him in the shot. It is telling his story. We're learning this information from his perspective. And here's tip 3. Use your perspective grid to guide your audience's eyes to look exactly where you want them to look. So this is how I end up doing it. I put my vanishing point somewhere over here. I know that I want my focal point to be right here. And so I start drawing my lines this way to guide my eye to look over here. And of course, when they make the final film, are they going to have a giant grid on the ground? No, they're not going to. Doesn't matter. You can use it in your boards and it'll help tell the story more clearly. Okay, here's another shot. This is from this is actually from a previous student who did this class, and I redrew it, but he used a cat character to be our assassin. I thought it was really cute. And so if you're not sure how to stage more dynamically, first stage the proscenium, go for clarity. So this is the same lesson I just gave you, but a different version. So our cat character's in the tree. He's looking at this image of the king that needs to be killed. He's got some books on assassinating, very, very proscenium. And how can you make it a little more dynamic? What's important to see in this shot? So those are the big questions we want to ask. What story points do you need to convey in this shot? So number 2, then move the camera to a different shot and recompose your shot based on the camera's position. So I want to be more dynamic. I want to look a little bit more on the cat and have, I think, these pictures and books closer to camera. So I'm recomposing the shot here. So I'm going from here to here. By recomposing your shot based on your proscenium staging, we can explore different angles that might help tell the story more clearly. But the bigger question is, you've got to ask yourself, what is the point that I want to convey to my audience? What do I want them to learn? What do I want them to see? And then figure out where to put your cameras based on those questions. Every time you stage your shot, you're attempting to answer the question that you've asked yourself. What do I want to learn? What do I want them to see? How do I want them to experience it? And also, how can I make it more dynamic? A shot like this is more intimate since we're closer to our character. And by placing the camera near the branch, we can create a more dimensional composition, as this angle allows the branch to appear extending past camera. So this is more dynamic. Also, part number 4, we also end up composing to show only what's important to see. So here's a clearer shot without all the descriptions. We have a cat looking up and it has a circle slash saying the bad guy, so we know who he wants to kill. And compare the new staging with the original. So we'll go back and forth. One is a little simpler and one's a little bit more dynamic. And I could actually even, we could even push it a bit more on this shot. But I think it feels more intimate. It feels like we're almost sitting on the branch with the cat. Where this one, we're just standing outwards from him. Does this mean this version right here is any less valid? No, it's not. If you want to tell the story more into like this, that's fine. A shot like this you could even start a bit wider so that the contrast is greater from here to here. And maybe you could frame out so that I'm going to make a border. So his head is about this small, and this entire composition takes up this much room, and I'd fill out a little more information. It might be a great way to start off our shot. It might be a great way to give as an establishing shot for our character, and we could slowly drift in and then cut to this shot here afterwards when we want to see what he's looking at. We could even be more curated in the experience. We could even start on a close-up of this sign and slowly pan down to the cat studying it. We can cut to a reverse angle if we wanted to over this piece of paper and looking at the cat, studying it and watching his eyes dart back and forth as he's looking at the image of the character. So there's different ways to tell the story depending on what it is we want to say. Try moving the camera around the set to see what types of compositions you can come up with. This will push you to draw in perspective. So I just brought the camera up higher just to see what it might look like. Is there an advantage to this angle from a storytelling perspective? Well, this shot might help because look, now I'm really focusing on this thing that says the bad guy must kill. To kill a mockingbird, or he's got books on killing here. But the whole point is this might be more dynamic. This might be more interesting, and it might focus our eye on something. And this off-kilter angle, it's sort of like a Dutch angle. It might make you feel a little more uncomfortable, and that might be the emotional feeling we're going for. So the bigger point is try, based off of your proscenium staging, to put the camera in different angles to tell the story slightly differently based on what it is you want to convey to your audience. It's a great story. It's actually a great way of generating ideas for stories, but also a great way of just warming your brain up and becoming very adept at moving the camera around your virtual set that is all locked away in your brain. How does this composition make you feel in comparison to the previous composition? Do we learn more from this shot than the previous shot? I don't know. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. Tell me what you guys think. So this is the last part of this demo, which is try mixing up your flat versus dynamic compositions, but make sure that you're composing each shot to tell the story as clearly and effectively as possible. So we have flat in panel one, we have flat proscenium staging. Action is on one plane, moving from right to left. So we have a guy here, and one guy does a big kick to the side and kicks him right in the gut. Very classic sort of Jackie Chan staging. He loves staging proscenium in a lot of shots to set up very clearly what's going on in the action, and that's great. Then cut to a more dynamic shot. Guy is now flying towards camera. So we've cut to a shot where the camera's behind the guy, and that continues over here in panel number 4. He's getting super close to camera before crashing down off screen right here. So that's a really dynamic way of showing the pain on his face, especially if a shot like this is done in slow motion. This whole thing can be done in fast motion, like, and then, so you could play on the acting of the face, the eyes bulging out, the pain and grimacing, and then in real time crashes here off camera. And then we reveal the butt kicker in the background. So there are different ways of telling the story. So that's that. So play around with your staging to highlight certain points. The other thing I want to say is that this shot is a good example of contrast in staging. We have flat Wes Anderson-like staging, 1 point, then off the kick, which is very simple. We go to a dynamic 3-point perspective shot where our character with the camera could be a little bit low, and he flies up over camera and into camera. And right now we have lateral left-right movement, and we have a character flying into camera, which breaks up makes the shot very dynamic. And then if we wanted to cut back to this shot here as the guy's lying on the ground, it would be a nice little way of bookending the shot for going from flat and proscenium to dynamic back to flat and proscenium. And that middle shot will make it feel very dynamic because it's contrasting with the other shots. Learn compositions from movies. We did this last week when we looked at a couple of Clint Eastwood movies, or actually we looked at one, which was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And remember to turn off the sound. This is a mistake I've made, a fatal flaw. I end up watching the movie and I try to compose and I leave the volume on, and what happens? My sketch pad is on the ground. I got a beer in the other hand and I'm just sitting back like, this is a really good movie. So don't do that. Turn the sound off. The sound will pull you into the story. Find the horizon line and vanishing point and sketch it out in the shot. Boom! There's my horizon line. There's my vanishing point. It's designed off of, well, I don't have all the architecture here in the shot, the way the actual saloon is drawn, but that's how it came out. Again, the horizon line is the height of the camera. And then what is the focal point of your shot? What are we supposed to be looking at? And here's our focal point right here. Always remember where it is that you want to look and where you want the audience to be focusing, and then design your sets around that and your shots around that.